Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Northland Artists Conversation. My name is Mark Kelly. Thank you very much for choosing to watch us today, making us your podcast of choice. And whether you're viewing us through YouTube or listening to us through your podcast of format of choice, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Today's guest, Ryan Beehre. Ryan, I apologise in advance. Beehre. There we go. Ryan Beehre. Ryan came in today. Now, Ryan was one of those really special guests for me. I know I'm outside of the podcast as a creative person. And Ryan has a really interesting story to talk about. Ryan has been an international touring musician. How cool is that? Living right here in Whangarei, in the beautiful Northland, and an international touring musician. He used to be in a band called Minuit, and if you're a lover of electronic music, I highly recommend you go check them out. Minuit is spelled Minuit, French for midnight. Ryan sort of talks about his journey into music, starting off picking up the guitar, and then kind of the journey he has. Talks a little bit about his time in Minuit. Shares a couple of funny stories as well, which is always very cool. I love hearing the stories, which is amazing. And then he talks about what he's up to now, and he shares some really, really cool stuff. And he's got some amazing projects and some unbelievable. He's currently working with a famous TV host. TV host? Yes, I'm going to go with TV host. I'm not going to give too much away on some new music at the moment, which I thought was super cool. And, you know, he's so cool. He's incredibly articulate as well. And he was just so giving throughout the podcast, which for me made it, a lot of fun to sit down and chat with. So without further ado, let's sit down and have a conversation with Ryan Beehre. Ryan Beehre. That's wrong. It's Ryan Beehre. Ryan Beehre.
That's me. I felt like I was back at school then,
I know.
Hearing the name called out. You're always looking forward to see how the teacher would say.
The teacher going, and Mr. Beehre.
Well, beer was the best one,
Beer.
Beer, say beer.
Yeah. Welcome to the Five Elements Media Studio for coming in and sitting down with the Northland Artists Conversation.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Excellent. Such an excellent answer as well. You could have been honest and said, I didn't want to be here. I wanted to be anywhere else other than here. But it is really cool that you're here because you were one of those artists that I kind of wanted to get quite early on in the piece. Because obviously we'll talk about your artistic journey as we sort of go on through this, but it's not very often I've been able to say this on the podcast. You are an international artist, and that's not a lie. True, because you are. You've been in a successful band. You've been a touring musician. You've played internationally. You've also had your music on some TV shows and video games, which is a huge accomplishment, and I'm really looking forward to sort of diving on into that.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. Good times.
Right.
Let's go back.
What did we do again?
What did we do? Yeah. What was the name of my band?
Yep.
But let's go right back. Let's go well back before the band stuff. Let's go school. Let's go even before school.
Sure.
Your background. How did you? Was music kind of always the first love? And if so, how did you sort of get into it?
It was, I think, what comes to mind first of all when you ask that question is my father's record collection.
Oh, really?
Yep. And
one of the classic vinyl ones?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep.
My dad had that too.
Yep.
Well, mum and dad, but yeah.
Yeah. And he loved he wasn't a musician, but he loved his music with a passion. And I think the rest of the family, myself, my brother and sister, and mum as well, we followed in that.
Yeah.
And that was something we shared together. And so we would have afternoons and evenings, kind of we would all sit around together, and each of us would choose 2 songs to play, and we'd flick through, find the vinyl, put it on, play the song, and we would all respect each other's choices, which was really a really cool thing to do. And so my education of music, I think, was through his collection, which was there was lots of stuff. So the Stones, the Beatles, Yardbird stuff, so that kind of English rock stuff. And then there was the Eagles and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and then the kind of more Americana stuff that was around that, because he would, like, for example, find the Eagles and then research that a little bit more, and then get into like Poco and then
Poco.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Man, that's a deep cut. Now,
yeah.
Poco, and to make sure I get this right, Poco is the original band for the Eagles, is that right?
I think it's got original members, but I wouldn't go as far as to say it was the original band.
Was it Glenn Fry and Don Henley? That was the, or was it just one of them?
I don't think it was Henley. I think it was
Glenn Fry.
Was it Messina? Was the other? I think one of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, the finer details I'm not. But I know they are associated with them.
Yeah, it's kind of like pre-Eagles. Sort of coming into your, learning your music journey type thing. Yeah. Wow, Poco.
Yeah.
Man, I watched the Eagles documentary a couple months ago, and the name came up. So as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, shit. Yeah. Okay, I do know it. Wow.
So that's what his collection was like. You had the main ones, and then you had the kind of stuff that was behind that and what other members did. And we would... I was really interested in that and learnt so much through that, that record collection that was in the house, and would listen hours and upon hours to music in headphones like this, and that was a really fun part of my childhood, and really enjoyed it. Yeah.
How old are we talking here?
Oh, well, as soon as we kind of were old enough to realise what was happening.
Right.
Dad's putting on a record, and I like it. This is cool. Who is that? So it's a. I don't know. I couldn't even tell. I couldn't
type thing.
Put a number on it. To be honest, it just felt like that was my childhood.
Yeah, a very similar situation for myself. My mum and dad had a lot of the album, or the artists that you said. They had like Doobie Brothers, Rod Stewart.
Oh yes, yeah.
The Eagles. And then a bunch of stuff that I don't really remember, because it was, I think, Boney M. I think. Please don't hold that against me, mum and dad, if that's wrong. But that was sort of my gateway into music. Was there one particular album or artist that you kind of naturally gravitated towards and went, I kind of like this over and above?
Yeah, so I'd have the Stones. The favorite band all time.
Can't get
forever.
No Satisfaction.
Oh man, the whole lot.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Love it. Well, actually, probably I reckon everything after Tattoo You was a bit of a struggle for me, but everything Tattoo You and prior, absolutely.
Was Tattoo You around the time that they went into their 80s pastels colouring? Or?
Yeah, that's right. So that because I think Tattoo You was maybe 1980 or 1981.
Yeah.
And after that was the pastel era, and I don't think I was gravitated towards that.
Bit of a struggle, but then we got that was it Mick Jagger, David Bowie combo song, which I always thought was really good.
Okay. Is that Dancing in the Streets?
Yeah, it's a classic, that one. Very, very 80s.
Yeah.
Very 80s. Okay, so Stones for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was it about the Stones? Like, because you've got you mentioned the Beatles.
Yeah.
Now they're kind of like, like the big band. For me it was the Beach Boys. I like the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
But Beatles, okay.
The Beach Boys too.
You're picking the Stones over the Beatles.
Yeah, there was. I mean, because I really enjoyed the blues stuff as well. So I loved, especially Robert Johnson. I mean, would always go back to the Robert Johnson recordings for blues, and then the Stones were really influenced by. I think Howling Wolf was a big one for them. And I guess I just loved that rawness to it. It was there was a feeling to it. There was it was the feeling. It was the feeling of that blues and rock, which I don't know how they presented it, how they sounded. That was it.
Yeah,
I was so So that's the best way I could put it.
The presentation of the music and how it was presented to you, but also the way they looked as well. Kind of like the whole package, right?
For me, it was. Yeah, I was sold on them.
Yeah.
And I wanted to learn everything about them and tried to. When I started playing guitar, I wanted to play guitar exactly like them. And like,
did you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What was your go-to song on the guitar?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yes, that's what we're here for. The good questions.
I don't know actually. I don't.
So how old are you when you grab the guitar? How old are you when you pick up the instrument the first time?
Yeah, I feel like it was quite late in the piece, to be honest. I mean, I loved listening to music so much, and I was quite that fulfilled me more my musical stuff. But we had a piano, and I would play the piano a lot. And I'd have to do lessons, but I was so terrible at doing the discipline side of the lessons. But I would still spend time on the piano, like playing around and just loving the sound of it. And because the piano was so percussive, and I loved the Muppets and Animal playing the drums. So I would get like old margarine things, and I would hit them in front of the TV, waiting for Animal to come on and stuff like that. So I was really interested, I think, in music in general, but as far as the guitar goes, I would pick up other people's guitars and I'd just muck around and kind of think, there's 6 strings, that's the 6 things I have to kind of think about. That's way too much. I'm not interested. This is cool, but I'm really not into it. I was like, 6 things. I've got to think of the 6 things. No, thanks. And
well, bass is only 4,
right? Yeah, yeah.
But the piano's got a whole raft of it. There's more than 6.
Yeah, but you could just hit it anywhere and make a sound, and that
is true. You know? That is true.
It sounded good.
Yeah.
I think with guitar, you'd start learning riffs on it with 1 string. But the thing about it was, I would pick up other people's guitars.
Yes.
And they were upside down for me. Because
you're a lefty.
But I didn't realise that at the time, and it wasn't. I knew something was different, but I didn't even really think about it that much as well.
Right.
I just didn't really care.
Wow.
And then we were living in Australia at the time, and we went round to some friend's place, and I would have been about 15 at this stage.
Yep. Okay.
So I'd picked up a fair number of guitars by that time. But just didn't really thought 6 strings, it's way too much effort. Not interested. But then this guy was playing a Les Paul copy and through an amplifier, and it had that kind of dirty, small little speaker, so whatever amount of gain you had on it was going to overdrive.
It's just really pushing the speaker hard.
Yeah, that's right. And so you had this cool kind of distortion sound on it. He was only playing like really simple stuff, but it's just, if anything, it reminded me of what the Stones did. It was like that grunty sound out of these distorted speakers, and it's like a spell was put on me. And I thought, holy moly, what is this? This is really cool.
Yeah.
And then Dad said, oh look, all right, Christmas is coming up. We're going to get you a guitar.
Really?
So
that's cool.
Yep. And he took me we were in Australia, so we went into Brisbane, the main thing, and they had a big store there, and music store there. Not like the little boutique ones, which was the norm, I think, the little boutique kind of stores around that time.
Yep.
Not these big mega stores. But we went into town, we went to this big mega music store, and I pick up a guitar, and of course I pick up a right-handed one, and it's upside down. And me thinking, oh yeah, sweet as, let's get something like this. And we were on a budget, so it was like entry-level guitar.
Yeah, sure.
And the guy goes, oh, you're left-handed. And we've got left-handed guitars here because we're such a cool shop. We've got
Yeah.
everything you need,
We've
man.
got a warehouse.
Yeah.
We've got everything.
So stay right there. And comes back with a left-handed guitar. And in the end, we bought this. So that meant it was orthodox, basically, which means it was strung the right way for a left-handed.
So EADGBE. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we walked. That was my Christmas present, and got some lessons for a while. And I guess I just kind of climbed that mountain of that 6 strings is way too many things to think of. And after maybe a few months of lessons, going to a tutor, and then something just clicked for me. And it was like, okay, cool. I think I can take it from here. And then I did, and I was just played all the time. And then, started pulling out the Stone stuff, learning how those riffs went.
There you go.
And whatever else I was really into. Led Zeppelin was a big one at the time, at that age.
Yep.
For me too.
What year is this roughly?
So we're...
what are we like?
that would have been 88, 89, I reckon.
Okay.
No, 88, 89, 1990. So, of course, amazing records were coming out then,
Yeah, a lot of good material
Appetite
then.
for Destruction had just come out. Man, I went crazy over that.
Motley Crue's Dr. Feelgood for me.
Oh, yeah.
That was the album that got me. I was like, I got Motley Crue.
Yeah.
Began a long-standing love affair with them. Did you know, interesting side note, that Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 is being re-released as a box set with 63 new tracks?
63 new tracks?
Apparently so, yeah.
That's right. Wow.
Yeah, and Appetite for Destruction came out as a limited edition box set not long ago.
Okay.
I know. The random shit that you find that I remember. Okay, so you're in high school. You've got this guitar.
Yep.
You're able to play more comfortably and in the traditional way now, as opposed to playing. Well, because now it's interesting because
Smoke on the Water on one string.
Yeah. Anika Moa is she now? I've seen her play live a couple times, and she used to play righty, but she's a lefty, so she would have the guitar, but the other way.
Yeah.
So her G chord would be an upside down G chord.
Yes. Yeah.
And she taught herself how to play that.
Yeah.
So you've got the guitar, and you're able to play normal chords. You're barreling through all these songs. Are you doing music at high school?
Yeah. So you find a bunch of
like-minded individuals.
Yeah,
Yes.
that are into music, and like you start talking about the bands that you like, and find this commonality, and
your influences.
It's so good. It makes school suddenly an okay place to be.
Yeah.
And so there's. Yeah, that's right, and it was fun, and we found a bunch of friends, some who were really good at music, who had been, trained in music all the way through, and I was like this newbie to it, of course, or as far as playing it goes. Like, I felt like I knew a lot, but playing it was a different story. So it was a cool little journey, and we played in the school musical, for example, and other things that the schools do.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was...
Can you remember the musical?
Yeah, Godspell.
Godspell?
Yeah.
Man, that's a 70s classic.
Yeah. So that was fun, it was cool. Yeah. So that's right. And then we left Brisbane, which would have been halfway through my final year of high school.
That would have been...
So I had to leave all that. That was 1991.
So that would have been
seventh form. Yeah.
Which is year 13 now?
The equivalent here, I believe it is. Equivalent to year 13.
I'm old. I don't understand the years. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
That makes me sound terrible. I know. Editor Andrew's probably shaking his head going the back. He's got the big eyes at me going, how the hell can you not understand? Well, I came from forms. You had your standards and your forms.
Yeah.
Standard 1 through 4. Then of course you did both. And then you had forms 1 through 7. That's how I remember it. Form 1 and 2 were intermediate.
That's right.
Form 3 through 7 were high school.
Yeah, so I basically did most of the high schooling in Australia.
Okay.
And came back in the 70s.
What brought your parents over?
You back to New Zealand?
Back to New Zealand, yeah.
I think I felt, or my understanding of it is that they'd really just done their time in Australia.
Had enough of it?
Yeah.
Done the dash?
Done the dash.
Had enough of the bad Australian jokes? Being called all the sheep jokes that you can have thrown at you? You're like, yeah, no, we're good. I don't know.
I'm just trying to think myself. I don't know. I don't think I'm too much of an expert on the answer on this question, to be honest.
That's right.
Yeah.
So they move back.
Yeah.
And you complete your last year, and you kind of through. It's like 6 months.
Yeah, it was about 6 months. Yeah. So,
yep.
And it felt like at that time, pressure to get bursary. That was a big thing.
Oh yeah, I forgot bursary was a thing. Yeah,
bursary was a thing. Yeah. So I guess I tried to. Yeah, I came back and with my guitars this time.
Yes.
And yeah.
What did you end up doing after high school? Did you continue studying? Did you take like a gap year, or did you decide that music is the way in the future? What did you do?
Yeah, it's all coming back to me now. Well, what I did...
It's what Celine Dion says as well.
It's in that 6 months, while trying to get bursary, I was, still so enthusiastic about guitar stuff.
Right,
and
okay.
I thought, because all the talk was around uni stuff after high school... That's right. My plan was this. This was my plan.
Okay.
It was, I was taking classical guitar lessons down in Auckland, so I'd be travelling down there, doing these classical guitar lessons, and that was to...
Get into like a music college or
yes,
something like that?
It was Otago. It was to study
right.
to study composition in Otago.
Yep.
But I needed this classical guitar kind of background to do that.
Yeah.
And what happened is I think I got some kind of entry. I don't remember, to be honest, the finer details, but it went something like this. Taking a year off study.
Gap year,
but to work to earn some money to then go to uni. Because it must have been, I don't know, the financial side of things might have looked quite different back then.
Pre-student loan type things?
Yeah, I think that would have been it. But there was definitely work for a year, earn some money that's going to help you get through the study thing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
and that was the plan.
Uni was not cheap. And I mean, I remember in high school, because we're probably of about a similar age. I mean, not everyone that
about that.
Well, not everyone that got bursary or UE could actually went, because not all kids could afford it.
Yeah.
You know, and I went to school at Gisborne Boys High School, which was, I think at the time, probably one of the more affluent schools in Gisborne, and not a lot of, not everyone sort of went off to uni. Just it was a economics thing, really. A lot of guys ended up having the gap year because they'd go out, work their ass off for a year, save as much as they could, and then if they wanted to go, they'd go, and if they wanted to keep working, they found a career. So, mate, what did you do for you in that gap year?
Oh, I think I had some of the worst work experiences of my life. My first job that I got was being a minder at the kids' clothing store in town on Cameron Street, and I think it was called TNT, and it was like clothes for
TNT, cheaper children's wear.
Right, there you go.
I remember the one.
And I would just stand around the store all day trying to put shoplifters.
Yeah. Discourage them.
Yeah. And I was this tiny, skinny little white kid. I mean, I was probably encouraging them. It's like, yeah, man, that guy's on.
Yeah. It's he's working. Yeah, we can take anything we want.
Absolutely. So weird, right? So weird. Back then, and I remember it was $4 something an hour.
Oh, the days of big money.
Yeah. And then that was a few months until I got a job at Woolworths.
Right, yeah.
In the grocery store there in Kensington.
Old Woolies, yeah.
Yep. And that was my gap year employment time.
Did you actually get to university?
No.
Okay.
No. So what happened, I had just started going to church.
Okay, right,
at a place, Central Baptist, in Bank Street there in town, and they had, and I was playing guitar in the church, and that was lots of fun. And then they had auditions come through for a band thing called Y1, and that was run by Youth for Christ.
Yes.
And they'd come around and they would recruit young players,
Yep.
Actors, musicians,
Yep.
for this show that they would put with
because it travelled around the country, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd go around the country. And so I auditioned for that, and that was towards the end of this. I was working at Woolworths towards the end of the year.
Yep.
Auditioned for them, and they said, "Yep, you're in." And so I had a decision: do I go down to Otago, or do I say yes to this
touring musician
touring?
lifestyle?
Yeah. So I said yes to the touring musician lifestyle, and what a fantastic year it was! It was just so much fun, absolutely brilliant.
Northland Artists Conversation is proud to support 116. 116 are located on Bank Street in Whangarei, and an amazing venue that you can actually hire. If you're looking to hold an event or looking to hire a venue for a special occasion, 116 on Bank Street are an absolutely fantastic place. You can simply contact them via email off their website or through Facebook as well. 116 have had such amazing events in the past as the Whangarei Fringe Festival, and they've also held the Plunge Pop Culture Convention there as well. They also have local artists that also put performances on, as well as incoming artists that come into the region as well and want to be able to do things like have plays or perform music or any of those sorts of cool things. 116 are also home to the amazing Beagle radio station as well, which is a local initiative that is all set up with some very, very talented people that actually love what they do, and they do it all for free. So it's very, very cool. So 116 on Bank Street, proudly supported by the Northland Artists Conversation. So you get recruited for Y1. Oh, recruited, is it? You get chosen, selected for Y1. And you elect to take that opportunity instead of going to university. Looking back on the career in music you've had now, do you still think that was the right choice?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And why?
Yeah, well, I just... we were playing sometimes up to 3 shows a day, and meeting so many new people.
3 shows a day.
Yeah. So you'd go to a school and you'd set up all your equipment.
Yeah.
Go through the set, and then go on to the next school, and then the one after that. So and it wasn't always schools.
You get really good at packing in and out.
Yeah, you get good at that. You do. I do pride my skill in coiling up.
Being able to coil up
mic
XLR
leads.
cable.
Yeah. You need one coil up, I'm your man. So, and I loved it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thought, man, this is cool.
What was it about it that made it cool? Was it the touring? Was it the performing? Was it the interacting with other people before and afterwards? Was it all of it? What was there anything specifically about it that you enjoyed more?
Well, I think maybe it was a bit of the factor of it. It's all of it, all of those pieces.
Right, okay.
Were enjoyable, so it was pretty intoxicating, really.
Yeah. How long did you do it for?
There was a year that we did it, but that we trained for 3 months, putting it together. And yeah, I suppose with the training side of it, that wasn't as fun. I mean, I guess suddenly we got on the tour and doing things, and then it was like, oh wow, okay, this is the part I really like. This is really good. Well, which is understandable, but that's kind of how it went.
Because you've got the discipline beforehand, right? You've got to sit down and learn the songs, and then you've got to go through them, and then you essentially have to take a bunch of individuals from around the country that you've never met before, and suddenly work together as a tight cohesive band. It's not like a bunch of mates that you've kind of grown up with, and you all pick an instrument, and then you're like, well, we know each other. We know you have a shorthand and that sort of stuff. So was that sort of quite challenging for you?
Definitely, there was a difference. So all the musical kind of band experience prior to that was as you say, a bunch of mates, you know, in the garage, kind of trying to pull it together. It was a fun challenge. There were things I had to learn that were challenging for me, like like doing guitar solos by Nuno Bettencourt or something like that, and we had to pull something together.
Oy.
Yeah, so I spent a few hours, trying to learn that. That's an understatement. A few hours. But I mean, the playing too was really good, and you learn a lot about it, because you kind of, if you're doing it that much, or you kind of, I guess you get an idea of what makes things good or not. I don't know, hard to explain, I think, but yeah, I think, as you say, mentioned before, all those aspects of it. I enjoyed. It feels like, looking back, I enjoyed all of them.
Yeah. So you did Y1 for a year?
A year.
Are you only allowed to do it for a year, or
that's just how they would change teams every year.
So
that was
roll
actually
in a new cast of players.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that was actually the last Y1 band.
Oh, right.
Youth for Christ. I think or the guys that were running that one went on to they left that, so Y1 wasn't a thing anymore, and they went on to create Excel, which was like a performing arts, Christian-based performing arts kind of school thing that they did in Auckland.
Okay, right.
I might have that wrong, but that's how I remember it.
Okay. Where did you go? So you do your year of touring.
Yep.
You're 19?
I was 19, yeah.
Where do you go to next?
So I met my friend Lance on Y1, and he was from Nelson, and during the tour I started writing songs myself, like writing out ideas for songs, I suppose, lyrics, chord progressions, with the idea that, hey, one day maybe start a band and record these songs and play them like what we're doing here with Y1, and Lance was kind of, he was such an eccentric dude, we decided that we would form a band. Boom. And we'd down in Nelson. So the idea was, we'll go down to Nelson.
Yes.
Pick apples and raise enough money to buy amplifiers.
Right, yeah.
And then get covers gigs, and then the covers gigs would pay for a recording of these original songs that were starting to get formed. Yep. In the back of the bus, writing down in these. I've still got the diary journal thing that I wrote. That I started writing those original things in. Yeah,
wow,
it's quite cool. Yeah, it's fun.
So you get to Nelson.
Yep.
You and Lance start doing your thing.
Yeah, and my brother followed me too. So he's younger than me, a year and a half younger than me, and he came down to Nelson as well. And he was going to play. So the idea was he was going to play bass. Lance was the vocalist. Okay. And so we had to find a drummer.
Right.
Basically.
Yes.
Yeah, and which we did. And my really good friend Aaron. And then we had a band in Nelson. We were picking apples and we were playing covers gigs, bought big amplifiers, and we paid for a recording. And in Wellington, we cruised over to Wellington and recorded these songs. So we did exactly what we set out to do.
Tick off the milestones.
As young adults, that was a pretty looking back, I think that was quite an achievement for us. We were really dedicated to this cause.
Have you still got that album?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
It's funny, you never lose it, eh?
Yeah.
And I bet that's travelled with you all around the country.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. That's always in the things you must take with you.
How long were you doing that before you made the transition over to electronic music? Because there comes a point in your career where the guitar gets put down, but the sampler gets picked up.
Yeah.
when roughly did that happen, and what inspired that to happen? Because going from guitar-driven music to electronic-driven music are very, very different genres. What was it for you?
I think,
I know.
Okay, so the artists the first thing that kind of like made me turn around, and go, oh, what's that?
Right, okay.
So
there was another genre of music, and you heard someone in particular, and you went, ooh, what's this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that was Tricky.
Tricky?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So I heard Tricky.
Yeah.
And then went, oh my goodness, this is cool. There's something going on here that I really dig. And, oh, wow. So...
Now, Tricky, for those people that don't know, is an English electronic musician, right?
Yep.
Yep, he's British.
Yep.
Sort of one of the early progenitors of the popular electronic music that came out of Britain around the time of Prodigy and stuff like that. Is that right?
Yeah. It would have been around that time. And he was kind of kicking around with Massive Attack. I think he was on some of their recordings. And he was doing... And then, he put out his own album.
Yeah.
So Massive Attack. Heard Tricky, and then of course Massive Attack was another big one. Yeah. As well.
Mezzanine.
Yeah. But this was before Mezzanine.
Oh, right.
Blue Lines, and what was the other one after Blue Lines? It escapes me right now.
The one that's before Mezzanine.
Yep.
Yeah.
So just all that scene. Of course, Portishead as well. Yes. So it was a bit of an explosion around that time, and there was lots of great stuff coming out. And so I was trying to get my hands on as much. So there was a group of us down there, basically. So out of the band had kind of parted ways at this stage. We'd done the recording, parted ways, but there was a scene in Nelson of musos, and I was kicking around with Ruth and Paul, who then became Minuit with me, and we were playing in a covers band, and Lance was actually our singer at that point, and Ruth was playing the drums, and she liked Tricky as well, and so we would, so enthused about this stuff, and then a Rebirth of Cool 5 came out as well, and that was a real head turner for me. I don't know if you remember that one, but that was just like one of those cafe style CDs. Every cafe had it.
Yeah,
but
I remember the range. Good. Yeah,
the range. Yeah, so you had Paul Weller doing. He had like an electronic thing on it there because he was basically guitar based prior to that. And who were the other artists on there?
Yeah, those CDs around.
It was all the music was fantastic.
Yeah. You had, around that sort of time, if I remember rightly, because you're in your early 20s at about this point,
Yeah.
I was running a music store in Gisborne, so all of the artists that you're talking about, yes, I remember that explosion of British dance acts or electronic artists that were just coming out. It was huge. It was unlike anything. I mean, I remember. Babylon Zoo.
All right. Yeah.
When he came out with the song Spaceman, it was just...
Yeah.
You had the album, with Portishead, they had Dummy, Massive Attack had Mezzanine. They're all considered very much landmark albums now because of what they did for the genre and the time.
Yeah.
So you've got Ruth, yourself, and you've got Paul, and you're in a band with your mate, and then an interesting thing happens, and I've read it in your bio, is that your mate leaves, and then you decide to almost shove Ruth out in front and go, congratulations, you're the singer, off you go.
Yeah.
Now, and that is that sort of where the birth of Minuit comes from.
Yeah, it does.
Because you were originally a guitar band.
Yeah.
And then lineup changes and personnel shifting around, and then suddenly it's an electronic band.
Yeah.
Okay. What was I'm curious to know. You remembered your first guitar, a Gibson knockoff. That was one of the early ones that you'd picked up, right?
Oh, yeah.
Can you remember what your first piece of electronic kit you bought was? You can?
Yeah, it would have been the ASR 10 sampler.
And that's Roland Akai?
Ensoniq.
Ensoniq.
Yeah, Ensoniq was the
Wow.
brand, ASR 10 was the model, and yeah, it was this kind of big keyboard thing. Man, the guy, Prodigy album Fat of the Land had come out as well, and we were
Great
just
album.
this is so cool.
Yeah.
And I went into the music store, and he had this sampler in there, and I was looking, and it goes, okay, so you can loop up stuff on this, right? I can make a drum loop on this. and then he goes, yeah, you can do that. I said, can I make an album like Fat of the Land with this? And he
Really?
said, of course you can, Ryan. So it's like, I have this thing with music store salesmen who would like sell me left-handed guitars and promise me the world.
Yeah. Yes, this keyboard will let you
this
produce
is it, man. You can
a
make
multi-million-dollar album.
something like Fat of the Land or this. And but I learned so much about, I guess, looping for a starter. I mean, that's all I wanted to do. I mean, I was just thinking about that Rebirth Call 5 album too. I mean, I think the thing, the crossover there with the guitar stuff and the electronic stuff, you had guys on there like Ben Harper had a song on there that was remixed by someone. I forget who it was remixed by, but it was just this fat beat with this great guitar. Ben Harper, I absolutely love his guitar style. And there was this kind of crossover with it. You had the great guitar, and then you had this just sublime beat going on. It was like, holy wow.
I think during that period of time, you had a lot of artists that were starting to experiment outside of their particular genre as well. And Ben Harper, very acoustic driven, hooking up with electronic artists. And I was into metal at the time, and Fear Factory's Demanufacture was out, and they had a whole bunch of international artists like Junkie XL and stuff like that remix their stuff into a dance album called Remanufacture. So that sort of thing was quite common. Like you get your CD singles. Man, I'm going to go right back here. CDs, boys and girls, are the round things that you used to put into Discmans that would have music on. You'd have your single, for example, but then you might have a couple of different remixes by different artists, or like a radio edit and stuff like that.
You always buy them for those other edits.
Absolutely. I know I did. Because sometimes you'd find a little nugget in there, and it would be like, oh, that's the reason I got it.
Yeah.
So you've got this piece of kit.
Yeah.
You're starting to make your own beats and samples.
Yeah.
And then Minuit transitions. Now, I had to do a bit of research on this. Minuit, and let me see if I got this right. Minuit is French for midnight. And your guys, Minuit's career, wasn't it wasn't a slow burn. Like, you guys got pretty popular pretty quick.
Well, that's not how I remember it.
Really?
There felt like a long time in coming up with that first album. I think things moved really fast for us once the album came out.
88, is
the
that
88,
right?
yeah.
Because you also had a couple of EPs prior to that.
Prior to that, yeah.
Yeah. See, having looked at it, you guys formed, and then it was kind of like EP, bit of time, EP. Album, I think it was like 2 EPs in an album, or an EP in an album. I can't remember exactly how it was, but it seemed like once 88 dropped, which was the first album, it was like, we got a nice trajectory, things are good, people are starting to notice. 88 drops, it's just straight up from that point onwards. And your exposure was massive.
Yeah, it was great. We printed 500 copies of the 88 and thought, that might have been a bit too much, but that was gone, I think, so fast. And then that's when we knew, oh wow, people are enjoying this. They like it.
Yeah, and that's when the national coverage started happening. And as we were talking about before, TV appearances. I first discovered Minuit on the TV series Space, which used to be on, I've got to make sure I get this right, on Friday nights. I think it's either 9 to 11 or 10 till midnight. It was in the later part of the evening. And I remember watching Ruth's voice for anyone that's listening or watching the podcast, I highly recommend having a YouTube or a Spotify search of Minuit, spelled Minuit. The songs are amazing. I think they still hold up to this day. Before you turned up, I'll be honest, I went through a lot of your catalogue and had a listen to some of it. The electronic production still sounds really, really good. Ruth's voice, very, very interesting. I found it very Björk. And the tone. Did that help? Because it's not like the singer for Golden Horse, where it's a bit more traditional sounding. It's very out there. And then on top of the really interesting beats and samples and production that you guys were doing, do you think that's what sort of helped grow so quickly? Were you relentless touring musicians?
I think yes. I think that would have been a big factor of what people were turned on to by it. Yeah. Absolutely. She had such a unique style, and it was presented in this different format that wasn't, it wasn't your traditional rock or pop sound behind it. It was, what are these guys doing? And then you've got this voice on top, and then Ruth presenting it how she does.
Amazing stage presence. And on your YouTube channel, you've got the final concert that you have. It's like an hour and a half video. And I started watching that, and I'm going to go back and have a listen to it when we're finished recording. I won't do that while you're in the middle of talking, because that's rude. But the whole presentation that you guys had was just so different, and that was what made it really interesting. The time, how long were you in Minuit for in total? Like, how long did the band go for?
15 years.
Wow. And you lived in Nelson the whole time?
No.
Oh, right.
No, we moved around a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was we were in different places for most of it, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of the internet got a lot more user friendly.
Yes, it did.
So just a lot of traveling for rehearsals and then putting the records together. Really.
That raises a very interesting question. Rehearsals. You guys toured internationally, and all three of you are living in different parts of New Zealand or the world?
For the most part, New Zealand.
Okay.
Ruth and Paul did a stint in Australia for a little bit.
Yeah,
it wasn't that long, and then I would cruise over there and we'd do shows and yeah.
Okay, how do you rehearse for shows when you're in different countries? Is it like, let's jump on a webcam, or do you literally have to pack up everything and head?
You make the sound check longer.
Is that it? Is that honestly it?
Sometimes, yeah.
So you might not have played a show for like 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you're like, oh, cool, we've got this short run of like a dozen shows, for example. Great. Let's have a 2-hour long sound check. Okay, we're still awesome. Let's play the set and kill it.
That was the case sometimes, yeah. I mean, that happened.
Wow.
But for other things, we would book out rehearsal rooms.
Right, okay.
But sometimes that was the go.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, with the electronic style of presenting the music too, I mean, I at some points of it, I enjoyed the fact that you could almost remix the song while we're doing it, So it could go in different places, depending on the crowd.
Yes.
Participation and the energy, for example. I mean, that's what we really loved about playing live, was this, and that was, just the way it's different from playing guitar and drums and bass. It was, you've got a machine in front of you and playing loops and
you can do
different
pitch shifting
sounds
and modulations.
Effects wise, you can manipulate it on the fly to a huge degree.
Yeah.
And the scope and dynamic, it just felt like there was a lot of it, and that was enjoyable, and it was fun to play like that.
Very freeing, I would imagine, because essentially you could almost say no two nights are going to be the same.
Yeah.
Because it depends on the vibe you're getting from the crowd,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
If you're like, oh man, the crowd are really hitting it hard tonight, let's I'm gonna sound really ignorant here. Let's get some wubs going, or
Sure.
you know, whatever. You know,
Yeah.
you kind of you feel for the crowd. Does that how would that have, was that an easy thing to like transition through? Because I know for, you know, I was a singer. I was in a metal band for 7 years, and obviously with like your traditional instruments, you kind of can't just suddenly start going off on an 8-minute long solo unless you're Leonard Skinner in the songs Freebird. But how would that have been for Ruth when you guys, you and Paul are at the back, you're feeling it, you're mixing your ass off, and it's all really good? Is she going, okay, when do I come in?
Yeah, I think there were times like that.
Okay, right.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But there were also times when we would almost follow her for what
Right.
would come next as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, it doesn't go right every time.
Were there any? I mean, I played a few shows where they're not train wrecks, but where you're like, it's probably not our best one. Do you have many of those nights?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hopefully not many, but they happened.
they do.
Yeah.
Gear breaks down.
Yeah. Oh man, I remember getting into the back of the sampler with a knife, a butter knife that the venue, that was the only sharpest thing we had, or closest thing to a screwdriver we could do to get in, and somehow I fixed it. I don't know what. I just remember the knife and the sampler wasn't working, and just crazy, man. But yeah.
Wow. So was this during a show as well?
Oh, it was just before. I think
before,
the sound
right.
check, something had happened. It was like, we've got to play. Sampler's not working. I think I know what it is. I just need to get in there, and you know, stuff like that.
So Minuit were together for 15 years. It's a decent chunk for any band. You guys got some music on a PlayStation 2 game, Grip Shift, if I remember rightly. And you also had one of your songs was in an episode of Bones. No, I didn't know that. I think that, but there was also in an episode of Grey's Anatomy. For me, Grey's Anatomy, not so much impressive. For some people out there, it will be. But Bones, as soon as I read that, I was like, that's really impressive. 15 years, do you just go, that's it, we're done? Or do you just naturally drift apart as artists? What happened there?
I think we finished the last album, and then so Ruth and Paul adopted little Theo, and so they were
a couple.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Didn't know that.
Yeah, and so 2 years. That was 2 years prior to us deciding to end Minuit.
Yep.
And you know, so things, their life started to change radically, right?
Yep.
And yeah, I think we all just kind of we talked about it, and it was time to end it.
It had like run its course, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay. You've had international travel, sold tens of thousands of albums worldwide, released a number of albums as well. Where do you go once Minuit, which has been a huge part of your life at that point, where do you go from that point onwards?
Well, yeah.
I know, it's a good question.
What did I do?
Like, do you sort of take a break from music? Do you go do something else? Or do you just keep the music going?
Yeah.
What happens?
I think for me, I really just kind of kept the music going.
Okay.
But it just wasn't successful, I suppose, in the same kind of level that Minuit was.
Right, okay.
I was DJing a lot
Okay.
and writing a lot of kind of electronic house music and breakbeat music, and working with some other artists. And I really actually kind of started really concentrating on pop production. I kind of got obsessed by it.
Pop music?
Yeah,
Okay.
for a bit there. And
Any sort of artists in particular that got you there?
a good question.
Like Dr. Luke or...
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
You know, because, you
Max Martin.
Right.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I was kind of really interested in his journey and what he was doing, and because I was working with some artists writing pop music.
Right, okay.
And so my production, so I really got more into the kind of studio stuff and trying to refine that. And I felt like, in one sense, I kind of went a bit underground doing that.
It's all right.
And and that took up a lot of my time. I was doing that.
Yeah.
And that was fun, and I was DJing a lot, which I have already said. Obviously, I'm trying to think of exactly what I did. And maybe that was how I felt at the time. I was a bit maybe set adrift.
Yeah, you sort of, because you have a lot of musicians that have been in highly successful bands, and the bands have either finished or they've left for whatever reason, and you'll either have people that just kind of carry on and they kind of keep doing their thing, or you have some musicians that just kind of wander aimlessly for a little bit and try and go, well, what do I do now? You've had the success, and some people like that. That's not for everyone. I'm pretty sure Kurt Cobain would agree with that. But then you're still doing stuff though, right? And now, what stage are you at now? Okay. You're still producing music.
Yep.
Still writing.
Yep.
But you're more in the production space of things, right?
Yeah, I would say so at the moment. Absolutely. Yeah, so there's a few projects going on. I'm working with a good friend of mine, Keely, and we're working on a pop project where we've got some management coming on board. We've spent a couple of years writing and producing songs, putting it out there, and now we've just got some management interest, and we will be releasing something in the new year. So that's really exciting.
Does that have a name attached to it?
Well, at the moment we're officially called Neon Cowboys, but we are thinking about a name change before this kind of push with the new stuff. Right. So
management come on board, Neon Cowboy gets a name shift.
Could get a name shift. So who knows what it's going to be. But that's been a really, I'm really happy with, how I said before, I got into the pop production. Yes. I feel like I'm at a stage now where that's come into a place where I'm really confident about what I'm producing and how it sounds. And it's been a bit of a journey since the end of the Minuit till now, and that my role as a confident studio producer, music producer.
Yeah.
And also had the really fun, awesome experience of working with Kath Beehre, who's a children's singer-songwriter, and she was in Nelson, and she approached me about producing some of her music, which was a really fun experience. And we've just recently won the APRA Children's Best Song Award this year's one. Yep.
Really?
Yep. So that was
congratulations.
Thank you. That was with a track called E Tu Tangata, which is a really great collaboration between Kath, myself, and my good friend Luke, he was my MC when I was doing the breakbeat DJing stuff, and he's in the UK now, but he's doing a rap on this thing and a chant, and it's so good. And my daughter's singing on the recording. We've got lots of my friends' children are singing on it too. Yeah. We've got lots of kids in the studio to sing the chorus parts and whatnot. And so that was just a really great experience. Yeah. And we've had some really fantastic recognition through this award. That's amazing. With it. So that's been really good. So now through those connections and the people you meet and that side of things,
Yes.
now mixing down a track for Kath and Susie Cato.
Hang on. It's our time. Kia ora talofa, Susie Cato. The Susie Cato from Susie's
Susie
work.
Cato, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is she like?
Oh, yeah, I've met her a couple of times. She's really fun and, really cool.
That's amazing. And that, you've been grafting for so long now to finally get, and having 3 different projects on the go must be very satisfying and gratifying as well, because as you said, Minuit was successful, that ended, and then your words, I wasn't as successful.
Yeah.
But now you are, but in a different way. As a musician, you don't need it. You don't need that tick of validation. But sometimes it's just nice to get a little bit of recognition.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And nothing says recognition like an APRA award, which is really cool. So when does the Susie Cato project drop?
I'm not sure when they're going to release that.
Yeah.
It's actually an old song that they're kind of revamping, and we'll re-release it in some different format. I don't. So the answer to that question, I'm not sure when that one's coming out. We are working on a new track because we New Zealand on Air, because we won that award. Have funded us for a new project which we're working on at the moment, and I feel like we've just kind of broken the back of just Luke's come back with a really great rap, and I'm really happy with the music that we've come up with. It was one of those ones where you come up with an idea, send it away, you're not completely sure about it, but the time that you've allotted to do that, that's what you've come up with, and then I've revisited, and then boom, that moment happens when it's like, that's it. That's the bass line. There it is right there.
Yep.
That's the guitar part. Wow. And all that stuff happens real fast.
Yep.
And it's just boom, boom, boom. Send it away. Luke's vibing off it. Kath loves it. And we're all kind of really in that wonderful kind of space of being so excited about it right now. It feels like that. So that's really good. So that'll... hopefully you'll be able to hear that next year. Hopefully in the new year.
So 2023.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
First quarter. Because that's a 3-month period.
Yep.
All going according to plan.
Sure thing.
Do we have a project name for that?
No. There's not that I'm aware of. The E Tu Tangata song came under Kath B.
Right, yes.
Luke's, he's the Colonel MC, and then my name was with that as well. It's kind of like Kath B featuring.
Yeah.
Because she's the names,
Yep.
So it might be something similar, but it's a really good point. That'll have to be talked about at some point, I think.
Yeah.
But at this stage, it's all about the song.
Yeah.
And the song's vibing. So
yeah,
it's cool.
that's so cool. I mean, it's been a while since I've really sat down and written anything with anyone. When I was doing my metal thing, I wrote all the lyrics, wrote very little of the music. And prior to that, I'd been in another band with a mate of mine, and him and I used to do songwriting. But as happens, friends part over time. You move to different places. Him and I have recently reconnected, and he's like, I've got some ideas. And I'm like, so do I. And he sent me a couple of tracks on Sunday for me to have a listen to. And whilst we've been filming, he's called, so I know what I'm going to be.
Oh yeah, you'll have something to listen to.
We're gonna have something to talk about afterwards.
Yeah, great.
Which would be super cool. So I get that renewed love and passion. What else is coming up? What else is going on with you, man? Because you're not just an award-winning music producer. You also DJ still. Where can people see you DJ? Because I didn't know that you were still DJing.
Maybe not as much, but I still am. I'm still writing house music. That's kind of what I do in my spare time. And so... so I've been back in Whangarei since late January, and I reached out to some local bars, nightclubs, saying, "Hey, I'm back in town.
Yeah.
Love to do some DJing. Should that, And Astro Boy came back to me, and so I've done a couple of gigs there.
Really?
And nothing's booked yet for another one, but
Okay.
but hopefully I should be down there another time to play some more music down there.
This podcast will probably come out around about December.
Okay.
Tourists are coming back, so I'm sure at some point there will be a future gig coming up as well. That'll be really cool. Ryan, mate, thank you so much for coming in and sitting down. It's been a real pleasure for me to have you in the chair. We have an amazing range of guests that have come in, and I love the stories. They're always so cool. And myself and the Northland Artists Conversation team, thank you very much for your time. Yeah.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. Awesome.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Well, there you go, guys. Ryan, man, Ryan is kind of one of these amazing artists that I have a huge amount of respect for. He talks about starting off, like most people's journey into music is, picks up an instrument, grabs a bunch of mates, starts a band, and then for him, it's kind of it's an interesting choice. He really hits a fork in the road, and he has to make a decision. Does he do the Y1, or does he go to Otago Uni and study music? And he picked the Y1 path, and obviously that path led him to Minuit and international success. And stuff like that, and he's had a fantastic career. Talked really openly about how he sort of struggled a little bit after Minuit finished, and then where he's at now. He's a music producer, confident behind the console as well, and does pop music now. APRA award winner, having only like this year, 2022, having won an APRA award for Best Kids Song, which was just super cool. I mean, what a great accolade to have, and working with Susie Cato as well is just amazing. And he's still out there. He's still doing it. And, the fact that he DJs every now and then at Astro Boy. How cool is that? Just Astro Boy on Bank Street. So if you do see, any DJs pop up there, I'd highly recommend going down and checking it out. Just seeing what sort of stuff he does. Still doing house music and breakbeats. Yeah, definitely. It's always a fun time. So where can people find us? I guess is sort of the next question. Andrew would normally do this part. So you're stuck with me, unfortunately. So I will do my best not to make a complete meal of this. For the visuals, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, on YouTube, at Northland Artists Conversation. For the audio platforms, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts, all Northland Artists Conversation. And if you are a person that has any type of creative output, don't care what it is, not too fussed at all. Tattooist, hairdresser, chef, muso, poet, anything along those lines, and you would like to be on the podcast, or someone that would be great as a guest, please feel free to email us at hello@northlandartistsconversation.co.nz. We would love to hear from you. We're always looking for guests. It's kind of one of those things where you can never have enough. So if you're interested, we'd love to hear from you. We also have a Patreon page where you can give a little bit more to the podcast. We appreciate all the love and support we get from all the people that like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, or send us a thumbs up or a little love heart on Facebook and Instagram. Really appreciate it. Those sorts of things are cool. But if you go, yeah, you know what? These guys do something pretty amazing. I would love to have the opportunity to help them grow. Patreon is where you can go to support us. We have 2 tiers. We have a cup of coffee, and that is $5 a month. And then we have a second tier, which is Coffee Addict. That's $20 a month. But what that $20 a month gives you is it gives you the ability to get some extras that you wouldn't get. One of those extras being, if I will put up on there who's coming out, who we're going to be interviewing, and give the Coffee Addict patrons a chance to ask a question. And I will ask the artist that we have in that particular question. And it's a nice way to kind of interact with the podcast and with the guests as well. Where can you find us? Go to patreon.com/Northland Artists Conversation, or simply go to Google and type in the word Patreon. That's Patreon, and then in the top right hand corner, type in Northland Artists Conversation, and you should see us there. Currently have 2 patrons, so I'd like to give them a big shout out. Thank you very much to Lauren Roach, OG, super cool, and Michael Boda. Now, both of these guys have been on the podcast and think what we do is amazing. And honestly, thank you guys very much. Appreciate the support. It really does mean a lot. So, yeah. Oh, man. It's interesting. It's December, but warmer now, thankfully. I don't know about you guys. I enjoy summer. I like going to the beach. I like, I like taking my bodyboard and just going out for a bit of a surf every now and then, and it's really nice. So for me, it's really cool. Man, November was such a mixed bag. We had we had a few days of rain and just really heavy rain too. It's just so weird. So it's good to see the sunshine out. It's good to see getting out and about and hitting the beach. Temperatures are getting a little bit warm. So get out there, enjoy yourselves. Christmas is just around the corner. Good times. But I'm going to throw to the wide cam. My name is Mark Kelly. Normally in that chair is Andrew McKenzie. From all of us at Northland Artists Conversation, thank you very much for tuning into our podcast, and we will see you guys real soon.